This is a Pele Media podcast.
Welcome back to Goonies Minute, everybody. Goonies Minute is the fan podcast where we carefully explore the movie Goonies minute by minute. I'm Brady.
And this is Chris.
Chris, we have made it to 1 hour of the Goonies. We are here at minute number 60 today. And, man, it feels like we started this thing just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it seemed like we started it 60 days ago.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Since this is your first, shot at the movies by minutes thing, are you seeing the Goonies differently than you ever have before because of this format?
Ridiculously so.
Yeah.
And, it's a movie I've seen many times, and we've talked about it before. We watched it together about a week before we started doing this, and we took some notes, and we paused it a couple times. But then when we started doing it minute by minute, it is just fascinating how much more there is to the movie than you would ever know.
Yeah.
It really is. You can look at things so many different ways. There are things that I'm sure I've seen but just never noticed, and makes me realize that maybe I don't watch movies as close as I should, or maybe that's we just don't do that in general.
I think it's this movie, the fact that we grew up on this movie. Like, there probably isn't a time in your life that you don't remember the Goonies just being there.
Right.
I was born, I think, a year before the movie came out, so it's just always sort of been in my consciousness, And that's so it's not something you really think about. And we've been doing a lot of talking over at Jurassic Park Minute about how that movie is about so much more than just dinosaurs attacking people. And the Goonies is, in a kind of a similar way, got things going on in it that you wouldn't have seen before, like, for example, Mikey being a pirate, if you will. In his journey, he's trying to top One-Eyed Willie, not just find his treasure and find his ship. He's trying to actually top him in his quest. So it's little things like that you're looking at, but only because you're studying it in this very fine, detailed sort of way.
Right, and there's no question. I mean,
yeah.
And that's another thing. I guess we always realize that the Goonies are trying to solve a problem for adults, but never realize how dark it could be. This movie could be looked at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Never realized, it was always to me, and it's an adventure comedy for kids. But think about all the adult situations other than just saving a house. Mm-hmm. Think about, the hand almost getting put in a blender. Think about somebody hanging from a jail cell.
Yeah.
Thinking about shots being fired, dead guys with bullet holes in the top of the head falling on people, falling on kids in a freezer.
Mm-hmm.
Threats by criminals to kids. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here.
It was a different time.
That you glossed over as a kid.
Yeah. Because
it was a PG movie, Steven Spielberg, all this fun stuff, happy-go-lucky ending.
Right.
Goofy Chunk is really the good guy. The pirate music, dun, 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 all that good stuff, and the happy ending. So you gloss over all the stuff in there that's a little bit terrifying if you really think about it.
Yeah, and I think the Goonies sort of represents a cutoff in this type of movie for children. And they just, the old saying, there's never been a more cliche phrase, and yet something that has had so much truth to it. But the fact that they just don't make them like they used to, and that applies to the Goonies more than anything else.
I agree. That's well spoken, and without further ado, let's get into the minute.
Enough of my rambling. Let's get into the minute. In the previous minute, the Goonies had found themselves in a cave with a waterfall. The room was filled with glimmering coins. They had found One-Eyed Willie's treasure. At 60 minutes, Mikey is amazed at what he sees. He walks through the waterfall unfazed. The rest of the Goonies follow him into the room. They begin to scoop up all of the coins into their hands. As they examine the coins, they notice United States presidents. Tensions are now high as they realize they have a long road ahead of them. And thus ends minute 60 of the Goonies. So this minute starts off with the Goonies having found what is the wishing well, but of course they think that they've made it to One-Eyed Willie's treasure, or at least some treasure, if not the actual stuff. And they're just kind of dumbfounded by what they're seeing, this beautiful sight. And Mikey, who is someone who's just constantly just blinded by his quest and everything around him, that he's unfazed by the waterfall that he walks through. And of course, there's only one way to get into the room, into the well, and that is to walk through the waterfall. But it's almost like he's looking just straight through it, straight at his goal, which is right beyond that, and just kind of walking right underneath it. And that with the music, this new theme that we're hearing, just makes for a really cool moment.
Considering what they've just been through with the booby trap of the rocks falling, I didn't really think much about it, but blindly walking through that water,
that's true.
That is kind of ballsy, to say the least. But, and again, they're like, kind of just like they were with the counterfeit machine, they have a false sense of I don't know, utopia, that they found their treasure.
It's that childlike innocence, I think,
where
through.
They go from being really intelligent to being back like kids again. But I'll tell you what, did they just print all those coins, shine them up, and throw them in there? Have you ever? I've seen a lot of wishing wells, and I have never in my life seen shinier coins that actually look like gold and silver.
Yeah.
And because I can tell you the closest thing that I can remember, I remember wishing wells growing up. You know where?
Like
Cortana Mall.
Cortana
and
Mall.
let me tell you what, those pennies.
The old mall.
You'd look at the pennies in there, and they were the most.
Yeah, they're just completely
non-shiny,
green,
dull, greenish, rusty-looking copper pennies.
Yeah, it was disgusting.
None of them were shiny like this.
Well, they're also like in constant water. These have kind of like fallen up on the rocks and everything. They're okay.
It's just for show.
But
I can see how they would be fooled.
Yeah, absolutely.
From a distance, but once they get up close, of course, they do start realizing that again, they have not quite achieved that goal yet. But you see something that happens that it's a little bit out of place is this interaction between Steph and Mouth.
Yeah.
They're like furious with one another. And it reminds me of, it's the first time I ever thought about this, but their little short angry outburst against one another reminds me of Ray and Winston in Ghostbusters 2 after they had the slime, where it's like a ridiculous, forced kind of little fight.
I can see that.
And the look on Steph's face, both of their faces, they're just furious for just a short amount of time.
Yeah.
You get where I'm coming from?
I do see the comparison.
I don't know why I was thinking that, but that's what it reminded me of.
It
was a little forced.
I guess they're just further developing that the little crush or whatever the hell it is. And what we decided earlier was that he's 12 and she's got to at least be like 17. Yeah, so right after their little spat, he has the $50 and he holds it up and she's like, "This is John F. Kennedy." And he calls him Martin Sheen. And she's like, "That's not Martin Sheen, that's John F. Kennedy." He says, "Yeah, well, he played him once." I just racked my brain to see if I could remember a movie where Martin Sheen played John F. Kennedy, and I could not figure it out because it wasn't a movie. It was a TV miniseries that came out in 1983, around the time of the 20th anniversary of his assassination. It was 5 hours long. And I know, it played all over the world.
JFK blown away. What else do I have to say? We didn't start the fire.
There you go. So, I've never seen that. Have you?
I have not.
You ever heard of it? Yeah.
I do know that Martin Sheen played a great president in, was it The West Wing?
Yeah, The West Wing.
That was a really good show.
That was a very good series, yeah.
Yeah,
it really was.
He did a good job.
Let's see, who took over for him? Was it Jimmy Smits? Jimmy Smits or John Stamos, one of the two.
No, it's not John Stamos.
I know. What did he fill in for George Clooney in ER?
I don't know.
Which had some other half, okay. So yeah, this scene is also giving us like a much needed break. We've been just moving non-stop for the last 30 minutes pretty much.
And we had some happy music, like you said. Like when that music when they actually see the treasure, like you were talking about.
That's right. Yeah.
That was different.
So, exactly. So we're getting this break with, kind of switching things up, but we are going to be seeing in the next minute that this isn't this kind of like happy-go-lucky, calm moment. They actually get into like some pretty big debates here, and Mouth is talking about how, this was my wish and all that, and they're basically just talking about the levels of disappointment they're at in their lives right now. So it's not quite the harmonious scene that they're starting it out to be. But that is about all that I have for the minute. How about you?
That's all I have.
Great. Well, listeners to Ghostbusters Minute and Jurassic Park Minute might be aware that we had some listeners, Brad Mendenhall and Amy Kinnerup, who wrote songs for those shows. Well, they have written one called Don't Be a Goonie for this show specifically that we're going to go ahead and close the show out with to celebrate the fact that we've gotten to 1 hour. So Don't Be a Goonie by Brad Mendenhall and Amy Kinnerup. Thank you so much, guys, for writing the song for the show. And thank you, everybody who's been listening for the last 60 minutes of this movie. We really appreciate everybody's, patronage and just being, contributors to the show and fans of the show. It means a lot to us, and you are the reason that we do this show. We will see you back here tomorrow for minute number 61, and until then, this is Brady.
And this is Chris.
And we're here to remind you that Goonies never say die.
First you gotta do the truffle shuffle. Come on! Do it! Come on! Do it!
Don't be a Goonie. I'm in love with you. You make me so loony. But your heart is true. Won't you come around? Can't you stay for a while? And truffle shuffle for my love.
Cut it out, Mouse.
You've been listening to a Pele Media podcast. For premium content and exclusive podcasts, visit us at patreon.com/PeleMedia. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/PeleMedia and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/PeleMedia.